From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Speaking out through tragedy, how two fathers say they're beginning to process after a Wyoming mother kills her children, then herself. And immunity against damages. What's next in the case of a doctor fired for mistreating patients and the hospital he once worked at? Plus, prices flying the coop. How the cost of eggs is driving some Montanans to bring chickens into their backyards. Good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Thursday, February 13th. I'm Augusta McDonnell here with Miller Robson.
And good morning, everybody. Good morning, Augusta.
Good morning. Welcome to your Thursday. We are almost to the end of a bitterly cold week, but we've got a few more conditions to pay attention to before we're out of the thick of it. This morning, high winds.
Yeah, we got some really strong winds around the Livingston area, up around Harlingen, Big Timber, those areas there where we can have blowing snow this morning all the way through lunchtime today. So just be mindful of that. It is another cold start this morning, coming off another very bitterly cold day yesterday, although it was a little bit warmer, and we are going to see some warmer temperatures as we move forward. Today, anyway, our high yesterday of 7, a good 31 degrees below average. Our low, actual low, 11 below. We got plus 30 below with the wind chill yesterday, but average temperature, we're about 30 degrees below the norm. Yesterday, we had a top gust of 30. We could still see some strong winds around here in Billings, especially western side of the town, so we could see some blowing snow there as well. Yesterday was a dry day, but the moisture totals for the month and for the year were in great shape. Snow totals for the month looking fantastic. We've dipped back below for the season, but we can definitely go way above the plus column as we get into the weekend, where we may see a hefty amount of snow heading our way. Waking up this morning, we're seeing at a roasty, toasty 3 degrees here in Billings. Feels like 12 below. Winds out of southwest at about 9 miles an hour. Take a look at temperatures across the area. We've got some areas that are double digits below zero actual temperature. Some of us single digits above zero. So very cold start again. We'll talk more about those cold temperatures and that chance of snow coming up.
All right, Miller, thank you so much for tracking all of that. Again, drive very safely this morning if you're passing through those areas. And now let's get to our top story. It's a tragedy that's left a family, community, and an entire law enforcement department reeling. On Monday afternoon, a Byron, Wyoming woman shot her 4 young daughters before turning the gun on herself. Coming to grips with this heartbreaking case may never be possible, and it's a nightmarish scene that sheriff's deputies say they'll never forget. Our Haley Monaco begins our team coverage this morning in Byron, where the grief is still overwhelming.
Deputy Carrie Angel was one of the first to enter the Harshman home shortly after the 911 call Monday. What she describes is something no one could have imagined in the small town.
17 years. 17 years at the sheriff's office and working crime scenes, and you don't ever expect anything like this.
A small town shattered in an instant.
We're worried for the living and we're mourning for the dead at the same time.
Sheriff's Deputy Angel was a few blocks away from the Harshman home when she got the call, never anticipating the scene she would walk into.
We entered into the home. Clearing the home, I went back to the one little girl who was actually still alive and administered first aid to her. Held her, stood there with her till EMS arrived and took her and continued first aid.
5 total people with gunshot wounds, 4 of them young girls, all under 10 years old.
This could have been any town USA. It happened to be Byron's turn. Unfortunately, this could have been any family.
32-year-old Tranielle Harshman shot her 4 daughters before turning the gun to herself.
I would encourage people to be very careful before they label this situation, as horrible as it is and as tragic as it is.
And as the community comes to grips with the loss and many questions still remain, Bighorn County Sheriff Kenneth Blackburn urges compassion.
We don't know the states of mind and what all goes into this. I think it's important we look at mental health and a lot of the other circumstances. I think it's more important at this time to unite as communities throughout Montana and Wyoming.
The first responders on scene also working through what they witnessed.
We've all been there for each other. Talked about it, cried together.
We do have some of the top critical incident debriefing teams in the state of Wyoming. We are moving forward to make sure that we take care of them in the best fashion possible and give them our utmost support for the sacrifices they've made, which don't always include physical injuries. A lot of times they're injuries of the heart.
In Wyoming, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Haley, thanks so much. The 4 girls in this tragedy had 2 fathers between them. It's a situation that's left the 2 dads with a heartbreaking reality. Our Kagan Harsha speaks with both men about the tragedy that's forever upended their lives and the message they want everyone to know as the community tries to understand why this happened.
They were amazing. They were lights to the world.
Cliff Harshman's world will never be the same. In a matter of hours, he lost his wife, his 2-year-old daughters, Brooke and Jordan, and their half-sibling, Braylee.
This was something beyond what I can even comprehend.
Harshman is trying to find answers to questions he'll likely never have answers to, specifically the why. Why his wife of 5 years would try to murder the 4 little girls he says she adored.
I don't even know how to explain this to you. I'm so angry for the decision that was made.
Harshman says his wife Trinielle was battling depression and PTSD and was receiving therapy.
People don't understand how mental illness isn't just a willpower thing. It's chemical imbalances in your brain. She was an incredible mom. She loved those kids.
While Cliff knows many will never understand his conflicting emotions, there is one man who does.
There's no textbook, there's no playbook, there are very few people that have gone through this.
Quinn Blackmer is the father of the 9- and 7-year-old girls who were shot. His eldest, Braylee, was killed. 7-year-old Olivia is in a Salt Lake City hospital still fighting for her life.
I'm furious. I'm trying my hardest to bury that for a while and focus on the now, because that anger is not going to bring my child back.
Olivia, currently sedated, is about to be placed into a deep coma to alleviate swelling in her brain. She's been responsive to some touch.
It makes all of us here very, very optimistic that things are trending forward.
But Quinn knows there's a long road ahead. He hasn't left her side, trying to care for her, while also still mourning the loss of Braylee.
They're peas in a pod. I mean, you describe one, for the most part, you describe the other. They're the kids that you want.
I haven't come to grips yet with the fact that they're gone.
In Byron, Kagan Harsha, MTN News.
Kagan, thanks so much. We'll continue to update you on that story out of Byron as we learn more. And in court news this morning, the Montana Supreme Court has ruled against a Helena doctor who was fired for mistreatment of patients, including at least one instance where he treated a patient for a cancer the patient never had. The 5 justices upheld a lower court ruling siding with St. Peter's Health in Helena in a complaint filed by Dr. Tom Weiner, the former oncologist who was fired in 2020. The court unanimously agreed that St. Peter's Health has immunity against damages related to Weiner's dismissal. Weiner was fired after the investigation, which determined in one case the doctor ordered 11 years of chemotherapy for a patient who didn't actually have cancer. The patient later died from poisoning related to the chemo. A federal complaint also accuses Weiner of making millions of dollars in false claims to federal health care programs. That case still being heard. And in consumer news this morning, as egg prices continue to soar, a growing number of people are beginning to dabble in a new backyard hobby. Montana and most other states are seeing a rise in backyard chicken operations. Not all towns and cities allow this, and most that do have restrictions on the number of hens allowed. Most also prohibit roosters. Startup costs vary, with the coop alone costing anywhere from $200 to $2,000. Feeders, waterers, and the birds themselves, of course, also cost money. The recent spike in interest largely stems from rising egg prices, with the average price of a dozen eggs hitting $4.95 in January. That's more than double a recent low of $2.04 a dozen recorded less than 2 years ago in August of 2023. And now in this morning's Montana Ag Report, MTN's Marcus Kokova catches up with a Laurel woman who fought to make backyard chicken operations legal in the city of Laurel, along with the Billings Poultry Farm, to learn more about this growing interest in backyard birds.
Cost.
From breakfast staple to budget buster.
Or concern.
A case of suspected bird flu in Ohio.
The chicken and her eggs are peak of the perch right now. though the suburbs of Laurel aren't where I'd look to find farm friends.
Go in there and get out here.
Megan Keys proves me wrong.
It's a little bit scrambly, and this is just my quiet place to go sit and watch them be chickens.
She keeps a casual coop in her backyard where her chickens continue to feed her, her husband, and their 2 kids amid rising prices and bird-borne illness.
I like that these have kind of a darker yolk to them. When you buy a store egg, they're just kind of pale a little bit.
Though she's unsure if they cut costs, from 2021 to 23, she worked on enacting ordinances which made it legal to have up to 6 live hens in Laurel.
That's that chicken egg that made me go want to change the law. It was my first chicken, and it was just real special.
Just over 20 miles away in the Billings Heights,
honestly, you kind of don't get to live around the house here unless you make some money.
Pioneer Poultry has 200 birds on site.
If you're going to get an egg, like, how much funner does he look than just a normal white chicken? But that's showing that they were checked for avian flu. And so I have to do 30 birds every 6 months.
At about $10 a chick and a monthly expensive keep around $2.50 per chicken, the birds here are cutting costs.
Pretty easy to get 6 chickens and put them in your backyard. And honestly, you could do it for under $300 to start. And your 6 chickens will hopefully pay for your eggs now within the year.
While the operation is saving and making money, owner Tennille says chickens are also hatched here for the empowerment of the people.
I don't trust anything anymore. I do trust local Montana farmers. Instead of buying it at Walmart where you don't know where it's coming from or what hormones it's getting, we don't have to rely on the man, we can rely on ourselves.
Marcus Gukova, MTN News.
Marcus, thanks so much. And you probably don't need reports to tell you what your bank account is likely well aware of. Consumer prices increased by the most in nearly a year and a half in January, according to new data. As CBS's Jared Hill reports, a solution to the rising cost of nearly everything might not be on the horizon anytime soon.
The cost of food has flown the coop. The latest inflation report shows the overall price of practically all goods across the U.S. is up 3% compared to last January, and eggs are just one reason why.
It's insane. Like, where are the eggs?
To stop an ongoing bird flu outbreak from spreading even further, farmers are either investing more to protect their flocks or culling, creating shortages leading to higher prices.
We're just getting less than what we order from our suppliers.
Prices jumped 15% in January, 170% higher than in 2019. Rent and housing costs are up as well.
The president has made his position on this very clear. He wants interest rates to be lower, he wants inflation to be lower, and he believes that the whole of government economic approach that this administration is taking will result in lower inflation.
Meanwhile, many economists are trying to see how future Trump tariffs may impact costs.
If those tariffs stayed in place for a number of months, we would see prices go up and we would see the inflation rate rise.
The Federal Reserve is signaling no plans to cut interest rates until prices start to ease. Bad news for anyone looking to get a loan. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
The recent CPI report marks the 4th consecutive month of higher inflation.